The day began like any other on the small human colony of Karan 3. The sky was bright orange. Twin suns hovered low on the horizon, and the wind danced through tall bluegrass fields. Captain Jace Rowan stood at the edge of his farm, holding a hot mug of synth coffee. His dog, Rust, an old warhound with smart eyes and silver fur, sat quietly by his side. It had been 10 years since the war ended. Humans and the alien race called the Drekner had fought for control of Karan 3. Many had died on both sides. But now peace ruled. Jace had chosen to leave the military behind and live a quiet life. He built a small home far from the cities, just him and Rust. No more guns. No more battles. Only silence, but silence has a way of breaking. That morning, while Jace repaired a broken solar panel, Rust began to growl. His ears perked up. His body froze. Then, without warning, he sprinted into the grass, barking loud, tail stiff. Jace dropped his tools. "Rust, what is it, boy?" The dog didn't stop. His barks turned sharper, urgent. Something was wrong. Jace followed quickly, grabbing his old scanner from the workbench. His boots thudded against the dry dirt as he chased Rust into the tall grass. The dog disappeared ahead, but Jace could still hear the barks, louder now. Closer to the tree line, when he reached the edge of the forest, he saw Rust circling something, or someone. It was a body. Jace slowed down, heart pounding. The scanner buzzed. Life signs detected. Weak, but present. He stepped closer and then stopped dead in his tracks. The creature lying in the grass wasn't human. It was a Drekner. A young female, barely breathing. Blood darkened her armor. Her long arms trembled. Her mask was shattered, revealing soft gray skin and deep silver eyes that blinked with confusion and fear. One leg was badly injured. Her chest rose and fell slowly. Jace stood still. The Drekner had killed his friends, burned his cities. He had fought them, hated them. Now one was here, on his land, helpless. Rust looked up at him, whining gently, then turned back to the wounded alien and sniffed her softly. He didn't growl anymore. He didn't attack. "Why didn't you kill her?" Jace whispered to his dog. But Rust only wagged his tail, waiting. Jace stared at the alien again. He didn't know what to do. If the military found out, they would destroy her without question. If the Drekner found out she was here, they might come looking and bring war with them. His hand hovered over his communicator. Call for help. Or help her? The Drekner girl blinked slowly, her lips moving. Her voice was weak, just a whisper. But Jace understood one word. "Please." Jace froze. It wasn't just the word. It was the way she said it. Not as a soldier. Not as an enemy. As someone who didn't want to die alone. He looked at Rust again. The dog had laid down beside her, guarding her like a friend. Jace knew then, this moment wasn't simple. Something deeper was happening here. Maybe the war hadn't ended. Maybe it had just paused. And maybe this wounded Drekner held a truth no one was ready to hear. He knelt slowly beside her and made a choice that would change everything. The sound was soft at first, a low hum in the sky. But Jace knew it too well. It was a Drekner scout ship. Smaller than the war cruisers, but still dangerous. Fast, armed, deadly. He pressed himself lower to the ground and dragged the wounded Drekner girl behind a thick bush. Rust followed, crouching close, his ears flat against his skull. The dog didn't bark. He sensed the danger too. Jace whispered to the alien girl, "Don't move." Her silver eyes were wide. Blood dripped slowly from her side. She was barely conscious, but fear kept her awake. Above the trees, the sleek black ship hovered. It scanned the land with a bright yellow beam that swept across the field. Jace stayed still, holding his breath. His heart pounded in his ears. The beam moved closer. Rust didn't move. Jace closed his eyes, counting seconds. The light swept past, The hum of the ship grew louder, then softer again. Slowly, it turned toward the west and vanished over the hills. Gone. For now, Jace exhaled. But something deep inside told him this was only the beginning. He turned back to the girl. Her eyes had closed again. She was shaking. Her breathing was weak. "Stay with me," he whispered. He had a choice to make: leave her here to die, or take her to the old underground shelter on his land. No one knew about it anymore. It had been sealed since the war ended. He stood up. "Come on, Rust. We don't have much time." Carefully, he picked up the Dreckner girl in his arms. She was heavier than she looked, her armor soaked with blood. But he carried her. Rust led the way, moving fast through the narrow forest paths. They reached the hidden shelter, an old steel door covered in vines and dirt. Jace scanned his hand. The lock clicked open. The heavy door groaned. Inside, the air was cold. The lights flickered on, dim and yellow. Dust covered the walls. But it was safe, sealed. Hidden. He laid her on the medical bed and activated the healing pod. The machine blinked, scanned her body, then slowly began to clean her wounds and inject low-level biorepair gel. Jace watched her as the machine worked. He didn't know her name. He didn't know why she was here. But something about her didn't feel like a soldier. Not anymore. She looked young, scared, alone. Rust sat by her side, tail tapping the floor softly. As if comforting her, Jace checked the old radio systems. They were still working, but silent. He thought about calling command, reporting her, but he didn't. Instead, he activated a jammer, no signals in or out. If the director had sent a scout, others would follow. Maybe a search team. Maybe more. They would scan the land, look for energy, look for her. And if they found her here, on his land, they might assume Jace was protecting her, and that meant war could start again. Jace sat down, his hand over his mouth. What was she doing here alone? Why was she injured? Was she running away? Or was she sent here on purpose? Suddenly, the alien girl stirred. Her eyes opened slowly. She looked around the room, confused. Then she saw Jace. Her lips moved. He leaned closer. "You saved me," she whispered, her voice rough and weak. He nodded. "For now." She tried to sit up, but groaned in pain. Jace gently pushed her shoulder down. "Don't move," he said. "You need rest." She looked at Rust, who licked her hand gently. Her expression softened. "You're not like the others," she said. "Most humans would have killed me." Jace's face was hard. "I used to be like the others." He stood up and walked to the door. "But now," he said without turning back, "I want to know why you're here." He closed the door behind him. In the silence, the girl whispered one word under her breath: "Rebellion." The underground shelter was quiet. The lights above flickered softly, and the hum of the healing machine filled the air. The Dreckner girl lay still, her wounds beginning to close, her body slowly gaining strength. But her mind was restless. She stared at the ceiling, her silver eyes sharp now. Her fingers tapped nervously on the metal edge of the bed. Every few seconds, her gaze shifted to the dog curled up nearby. Rust, the human's loyal companion. He looked peaceful, trusting, even protective. She didn't understand it. Dreckner. Warhounds were trained to kill. This one stayed by her side. The door creaked. Jace walked in carrying a tray of food and a bottle of water. He set it down beside her. "You need energy," he said without emotion. She sat up slowly. "Thank you, again." Jace didn't answer. He just leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Start talking," he said. "I need to know why you were alone, why a Dreckner scout ship was following you, and what you meant when you said rebellion." The girl looked down at her trembling hands. "My name is Nyla," she said quietly. Jace raised an eyebrow. "A name, a real one." That was rare. I'm not a soldier, she continued. Not anymore. I was part of a team sent to monitor peace zones between our worlds, but we found something. Something that wasn't supposed to exist. Jay stepped closer. What did you find? She hesitated. Her voice dropped lower. A weapon, she said. Old Dreckner technology, something from before the war. We thought it was destroyed. Jace's eyes narrowed. Why would they bring it back now? Nayla's hands clenched, because some in our government want to start the war again. Jace's breath caught. We were told the humans were building secret bases. That you were preparing for another attack, she said. But I saw the truth. I saw the recordings. There was no threat. Your people had already moved on, living in peace. She looked up at him, so I ran. I stole the core chip, the one that activates the weapon. I was trying to bring it to the Human Alliance station on this planet, but they found me. Shot me down. Jace's heart beat faster. He stepped forward and gripped the edge of the table. You have the chip? He asked. Nyla reached into her armor weakly and pulled out a small black disc no bigger than a coin. She placed it on the table. This could destroy half a city if activated, she said. Jay stared at it. One part of him wanted to crush it right there. Another part wanted to hide it. But the biggest part of him knew this changed everything. You could have died carrying that, he muttered. I was ready to, Nyla whispered. If it meant saving lives. Jace looked at her, really looked. She wasn't just a survivor. She was a risk taker. A rebel. A peacemaker. The silence was broken by a low growl. Rusted stood up, ears sharp again. He stared toward the shelter door. Jace's instincts kicked in. He turned toward the exit and grabbed his old blaster from the wall. Stay here, he ordered. He walked out, Rust at his side, into the upper hallway of the shelter. He reached the door to the surface, opened it slightly, and froze. There were footprints in the dirt outside. Not his, not Rust's, fresh, heavy. 3-toad.dreknar.jace. Stepped back and closed the door slowly, locking it from the inside. His face went pale. They had followed her. They were already here. Rushed back to Nayla. They found us, he said. Nyla sat up, clutching her side. How many? I don't know yet, but they want that chip. She looked at him, a flicker of panic in her eyes. If they get it, they will restart everything. War, death, fire across the stars. Jace picked up the chip. His hand trembled. Then he said something even he didn't expect. Then we make sure they don't get it. The shelter felt colder now. The air was tight, heavy. Jace could feel it in his chest. A storm was coming, and they were trapped inside a box made of steel and secrets. Rust stood near the door, growling low. His hackles were raised, and his eyes locked on the thick entrance above. The Dreckner soldiers were near. Too near. Jace held the chip in one hand and a blaster in the other. His thoughts ran fast. He had trained for battle long ago, but this was different. This was his land, his home, and now it was a battlefield again. He turned to Nyla. She looked stronger than before. The healing machine had done its job, but she still limped when she stood. We can't fight them head on, she said, her voice sharp but soft. I don't plan to, Jace replied. We hold them long enough, and then disappear. Nyla looked at him. Disappear to where? Jace looked past her, toward the far corner of the shelter. There's an old escape tunnel, he said. Built during the war. I never sealed it. Then what are we waiting for? She asked. Jace hesitated. We can't leave the chip behind. She nodded slowly. Then we take it. But we destroy the base. If they find this place, they'll tear it apart looking for clues. Jace gave her a look of respect. She wasn't just brave, she thought like a soldier. Like someone who had lost people before. Help me gather supplies, he said. They moved quickly. Jace packed rations, a small medkit, a backup comms device, and 2 energy grenades. Neela grabbed an old Dreckner pistol from the emergency weapons crate, something left behind during the treaty days. Rust watched them, waiting. Then the sound came. A deep, metallic knock-dot boom. Boom boom, dot not a hand. A Dreckner battering tool. They're trying to break in, Jace whispered. Another sound echoed. A voice, cold, clear, and commanding. You are harboring a traitor. Surrender her, human, and you may live. Refuse, and this shelter becomes your grave. Nyla stiffened. Her hands shook slightly. Jace walked to the speaker panel. He pressed the button. You come to my land, threaten me in my home, and think I'll just roll over? He said with ice in his voice. Wrong planet. He let go of the button. Silence followed. Then boom. The first strike hit the door harder. A dent formed in the thick metal. They didn't have much time. Rust, Jace called. Take her to the tunnel. Go now. Rust barked once and nudged Neela toward the back hallway. What about you? She asked. I'll buy time. Don't argue. But he cut her off with a look. Go. If I fail, you get that chip to someone who can stop this war before it begins. Her eyes held his for a moment. And then she ran. Rust followed her, paused silent on the metal floor. Jace turned toward the door. He placed one of the grenades on the control panel. The second he held in his hand. His blaster was charged. His breathing slowed. Another strike. The door bent more. He whispered to himself. Not today. The door blasted inward with a loud crash. Smoke filled the entrance. Figures in dark Dreckner. Armor stormed in tall, sharp, and fast. JSCE fired first. One fell too, but there were more. He ducked behind a crate, returned fire, then activated the first grenade. It beeped and exploded near the door, slowing their entry. But they were everywhere. He took a shot to the shoulder and grunted in pain, rolling aside. His vision blurred. His fingers fumbled with the last grenade. And then he saw something that made him freeze. The Dreckner leader stepped through the smoke, taller than the rest, wearing a red sash over his chestplate. Jace recognized him. General Varnak. The same alien who had led the final battle of the war. The same one who burned the city, where Jace's brother had died. The same one who had vanished after the peace was signed. Varnak, Jace whispered. The general raised a hand. The soldiers stopped firing. I gave you a chance, human, Varnak said in a deep, cruel voice. You chose wrong. Jace raised the grenade slowly. Maybe, but I don't plan to die alone. He pressed the trigger and everything turned white. Cliffhanger ending. Far away, at the end of the escape tunnel, Nyla turned around as the ground shook behind her. The sound of an explosion rolled through the forest. Her eyes widened. Rust growled beside her. She whispered, Jace, please tell me you made it out. The earth was still shaking when Nyla stumbled out of the tunnel into the open forest. She turned back, her heart pounding, her hand gripping the side of a thick tree. Behind her, smoke rose in a dark tower into the sky. A bird-like creature flew overhead and cried out, startled by the blast. Nyla didn't blink. She was frozen. Jace, she whispered again. Russ stood beside her, whining softly, his ears twitching. He stared back toward the tunnel, tail low. His eyes searched the tree line, waiting, hoping. No one came. Nyla dropped to her knees. Her side still ached, but it was nothing compared to the ache in her chest. The human had saved her life. Twice. He had fought Dreckner soldiers, his old enemies, just to buy her time. And now he was gone. I shouldn't have come here, she said to Rust. He died because of me. The dog nuzzled her hand gently. Then he barked once, sharp and short. He turned and began walking deeper into the woods. Neela frowned. Where are you going? Rust stopped, looked back, and barked again. Then she understood. Jace had trained this dog. If anyone knew how to keep going when everything fell apart, it was Rust. She stood up, gritting her teeth, and followed. They moved fast and quiet. Rust led her through winding trees, over dry streams, and across rocky ground. He didn't stop, he didn't slow. And Neela didn't give up. After nearly an hour, they reached a small hill covered in moss. Hidden in the side of the hill was a rusted door. It looked old, forgotten. But Rust ran straight to it and scratched. At the metal, a backup shelter? Neela reached out, placed her hand on the panel. It buzzed once, then turned green. Click. The door opened. Inside was darkness. Cold, stale air rushed out. Neela stepped in, feeling the walls, searching for a switch. Then lights flickered on, dim, yellow. And there, sitting on the floor, back against the wall, was a figure. Neela gasped. Jace! He was alive. Barely. His arm was burned. His shirt was torn. Blood ran from his forehead. But he was breathing. Rust rushed to him, whining, licking his face. Jace smiled weakly. Hey, boy. Neela dropped beside him. You're alive, he chuckled, wincing. Explosion bought me just enough time. Used the old chute behind the armory. Didn't think I'd make it. You're crazy, she whispered. Maybe, he whispered back. But it worked. She helped him sit up. He winced again but nodded. They'll keep coming. Neela opened her bag. We still have the chip. If we can get a signal out, we can send it to the Human Alliance. Let them know everything. The weapon, the attack, the betrayal. Jace shook his head. Main channels are blocked. Varnock has control. There must be another way. Jace looked around the old shelter. And then he remembered. He dragged himself to the far wall and pulled off a dusty panel. Behind it was a hidden transmitter, a relic from the war, powered by a separate generator buried under the hill. It still works, he said, but the signal is weak. We need to climb the ridge above the valley. How far? She asked. 2 kilometers. I can go alone. No, Jace said firmly. You won't make it without me. Neela looked at him, broken, burned, bleeding, and she knew he meant it. He had lost everything before. He wasn't going to let this mission fail. He stood slowly, with her help. Rust barked once and moved to the door. Before they left, Jace looked at the chip in her hand. If we send this, he said, Varnock won't just hunt you. He'll hunt all of us, and not just with weapons. He'll use fear, lies, make us the villains. Neela stared at him. Then let them lie, she said. We'll show the truth. They stepped out of the shelter. The sun had dipped lower. Shadows stretched across the valley. But they kept walking. The ridge waited. And with it, the one chance to stop another war. Jace limped, step by step, across the rocky path. His breath was heavy. Pain burned in his ribs, but he didn't stop. Neela stayed close beside him, one arm under his shoulder to keep him steady. Rust moved ahead, scouting the way, his nose too. The wind. The ridge was still far, its outline sharp against the fading sky, but it was their only hope. At the top was a signal point strong enough to send the chip's data to the Human Alliance before Dreckner forces could erase the truth. Behind them, the forest remained still, too still. Jace could feel it in his bones. They're close, he said. Neela nodded, her voice low. We must hurry. They moved faster. Trees thinned out. The ground climbed higher. Every few steps, Jace winced in pain. Blood still trickled from the burn on his side. But he never asked to stop. When they reached the halfway point, Rust froze. Low growl rumbled in his throat. Then, a flash of movement in the trees below. Drekn, AR soldiers. At least 6. Moving fast. Weapons drawn. They found us. Nyla whispered. Jace reached into his coat and pulled out the backup signal trigger, a small, black box with a red button. "If I can make it to the top," he said, "I can boost the signal and transmit the data." "I'll go with you," she said quickly. He shook his head. "No, if I fall, someone still needs to finish it. If they catch us both, it's over." He handed her the chip. "You carry the future," he said. She looked at him, battle-worn, breathing hard but steady. Then she nodded. "We split up. Draw them away." They moved like wind through the rocks. Rust ran beside Nyla while Jace climbed to the left, following a path through a broken section of the ridge. The Dreckner soldiers saw them. Shouts echoed through the trees. Lasers fired. Rocks burst. Nyla ducked and rolled behind a stone wall. She clutched the chip close to her chest. Rust stayed low beside her, waiting for her signal. "Go!" she yelled. He darted forward, barking, charging through the trees. The soldiers turned after him. A few followed. Nyla used the moment to climb higher. Meanwhile, Jace reached the signal post, a rusted metal antenna buried in the rocks. He ripped the cover open and shoved the transmitter cable inside. Sparks flew. A weak hum began. He held the trigger and pressed it. Nothing. Then a single green light blinked. Transmitting. But the signal was too low. He looked around. He needed more power. He climbed higher, dragging the transmitter wire with him. Every breath was fire. His legs trembled. A Dreckner soldier appeared from behind a rock. Gun raised. Jace pulled his blaster and fired. First. The alien fell. Jace reached the highest point on the ridge. Wind blasted his face. The sky burned orange. He raised the transmitter. The green light blinked faster. Below, Nyla watched from cover. Her heart raced. Suddenly, a new sound. A different ship. She turned. From the clouds above, a human Alliance dropship appeared. Sleek, silver, wings wide. It had received the signal. She stood and waved, shouting, "Here!" The Dreckner soldiers saw it too. One of them raised a launcher. Jace saw it from the ridge. He didn't hesitate. He fired down at them. Drawing their fire, he screamed into the sky, "You want war? Come get me." He fired again and again, until their weapons turned to him. Lasers hit his chest. Smoke filled the ridge. The Alliance ship fired back, blasting the Dreckner troops to the ground. When it landed, soldiers rushed to Nyla. She gave them the chip. "It's all here," she said. "The truth, the plot, the weapon." They saluted her. "We'll take it from here." She turned toward the ridge. Smoke still rose, but Jace was gone. Epilogue scene. Days later, Nyla stood on the same ridge. Rust sat beside her, silent. In her hand was a metal tag, Jace's ID badge. "He gave everything," she whispered. "Not for war, but for peace." She placed the tag under a small stone. Rust barked once, as if saying goodbye. Behind them, the sun rose, and the war was over before it began. The stars shimmered above the human Alliance station in orbit. Ships passed slowly outside the large window. Inside, Nyla stood alone in the command chamber, wearing a clean robe, her wounds healed. But her heart still carried weight. She looked out toward the galaxy. So much had changed. And yet, the real danger was just beginning. The Alliance had received the chip. They had decoded the Dreckner weapon's secret. Evidence of the planned betrayal, Varnak's hidden orders. Proof that a second war was coming. But peace was fragile. Nyla could feel it. Like a thread pulled too tight. A voice echoed behind her. "We finished decoding the last part." She turned. Commander Hale, a tall human officer with gray hair and clear blue eyes, handed her a datapad. "The chip held more than we expected," he said. "Jace didn't just transmit evidence." Nyla blinked. "What else?" Hale sighed. "A message." He tapped the screen. Jace's voice filled the room. This is Captain Jace Rowan. If you're hearing this, I probably didn't make it. That's okay. I didn't fight to live. I fought to give you the choice to live free. The Dreckner Rebellion is real. They want to light the fire again. But we can stop them, not with more war, but with truth. I was a soldier. I saw what hate does. I also saw what happens when people care. A dog cared for a wounded enemy, and I followed him, maybe. That's what makes us human. The room fell silent. Nyla wiped her eyes. Commander Holly cleared his throat. We want you to speak at the council meeting. Share your side. Make them listen. She nodded slowly. I will. That night, in front of leaders from both human and Dreckner sides, Neela stepped onto the council floor. She stood tall, calm, confident. I was raised to believe humans were dangerous, she said, that you were violent and cold. But then, one of your own, a man with pain in his heart, saved me when he had every reason to leave me behind. She looked around the hall. He didn't see an enemy. He saw a life worth saving. And in that moment, I saw the truth. War only lives when fear controls us. But peace lives when we choose to see each other. She placed Jace's ID tag on the center table. This man was human. This dog loved without a reason. And now I ask you, will you listen without fear? The chamber was still. Then a voice spoke, a Dreckner elder, old, powerful. We remember Jace Rowan, he said. His name will not be forgotten. Heads nodded. Across the room, the first step toward unity. Scene shift. Months later, a new colony bloomed on the edge of Karan 3, not human, not Dreckner, but shared. Children ran across grassy fields. Dreckner engineers worked beside human builders. And Rust, older now, still walked with a strong step, tail wagging. He stopped near a memorial stone. On it were simple words. Captain Jace Rowan. He followed his dog and changed the stars. Neela stood nearby, smiling faintly. She knelt beside. Rust, we did it, she whispered, but deep in the dark corners of space. A signal blinked. Unknown, silent, dangerous. Varnek's voice echoed from a distant ship. The Alliance is weak. They trust too easily. They forget too quickly. The war isn't over. It's only sleeping. Sometimes the smallest acts, a loyal dog barking, a human choosing mercy, ripple across the universe. And sometimes, that ripple becomes a wave that reshapes everything.